Hi guys, if you're like me, you probably belong to several Facebook groups pertaining to full-time RVing. You might be a wannabe, somebody that's dreaming about living in an RV full-time, and you're wondering how people make a living. In fact, that's the most common question I see in Facebook groups is, how do you guys make a living? So today I want to share with you how I make $40,000 to $60,000 a year working as little as 20 weeks out of the year, and also choosing the events that I want to work. So a little backstory here. I was a full-time poker player for about 4 years, actually 5 years, but my fifth year wasn't so good. And I was kind of starting to miss that steady income, knowing I'm going to go somewhere and make money. So I was fortunate enough to know somebody that had retired from the poker business, and he was willing to mentor me. Not for free, mind you. He charged me a pretty good rate, but I would dare say it worked out pretty well. Before you know it, I got my first poker job in Tunica, Mississippi, and almost as soon as I started there, I was on the road. I was dealing the World Series of Poker circuit events around the country. And back then, there was even a little bit less flexibility as far as choosing your events. I mean, basically, it was just the World Series of Poker circuit events, and the World Poker Tour was just getting started. Now there's all kinds of poker circuits, so there's a lot more flexibility, and you can kind of pick the ones you want to do. And that's what I love about this business. It's the ability to pick and choose the events you want to work. It just depends on what you want to do that year, how you want to travel. Do you want to travel vigorously? Do you want to kind of stay in one direction and not zigzag? It's up to you. It really is. So here's the deal. You're an independent contractor, and there's no 3-month commitments. There are no 3-month commitments. So you're not working for minimum wage for 3 months at a time anywhere. The longest one out there is the Venetian in Las Vegas during the summer, which is a 10-week commitment. Okay. The World Series of Poker, which the Venetian piggybacks off it, as well as every other tournament does in the summer, is a 6-week commitment. And then there are several 4 and 5 week tournaments. Those events in the summer are the longest commitments you'll have anywhere in the country, and you'll typically earn in the summer just one person. One person will earn anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000. Once you get your feet wet in Las Vegas, your longest commitment of the year, then you can put that on your resume and you can expand your circuit to other events around the country. Normally, these are 10-day events. Most poker rooms that have these events will not have just one per year. They'll have at least 2 per year, if not 4. If you work in an event somewhere, are you expected to work all their events? No. But I do recommend working the first 2 or 3 that are offered to you, and then after that, they know you and you can just work half their events and they're fine with that. So before COVID, this was kind of my circuit. Things have, kind of got scrambled since then, but, I worked at the Venetian in the summer. That was a 10-week event during the World Series of Poker. I would work 6 weeks over the year in Fort Lauderdale, and I would do 2 out of 3 events between Reno and Oregon, and one event in Atlantic City. But now I'm very excited. Since COVID, I'm just going to switch things up a little bit. I've really enjoyed my time off during COVID, and I decided I'm going to work every other year. I'm just going to work about 13 weeks. I'll do something like 5 weeks in Las Vegas at the Gold Nugget over the summer. I'll do another 5 weeks in Florida, and I'll do 2 weeks in Atlantic City and one other event. So about 14 weeks. So every other year, I'm just going to back off, and just work 8 less weeks out of the year. I have that option, and then the very next year, I can pick it up again. So what's it like to work a poker event like this? Well, your very first time, you're going to have to get processed, and most likely you'll do a drug test. So you may need to be there a couple days early so you can go in early the next day, do your drug test and all the processing, pick up your uniform and things like that. For me, for instance, I've already done all that. So, and every property is different. So when I go down to Fort Lauderdale, I'm a permanent employee, but I'm seasonal. Okay, so they keep me on staff, and all I have to do is show up and pick up my uniform a day early, and then I can go to work. So the next day I go to work. And what most people do is this: they go in quite a bit early so they can go to the employee dining room and eat. For one thing, this saves you a lot of money, not having to buy groceries at home. And for another, you may not get a break for a while at the beginning of your shift, because usually when you arrive, you're starting a new tournament. So the tournaments usually grow, 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 and then they shrink back down. But for a few hours, you might be pretty busy. So you want to just take that into account and go ahead and eat before your shift. Now, the pre-shift meeting is to kind of let you know what's going on that day, what tournaments are happening. And then during that meeting, they'll give you your assignment. So they'll give you a table number. In the event that you're starting your tournament, you go pick up your cards and your chips, etc., and your down card. Don't forget your down card. The down card is what you'll sign to get paid every half hour. You then go sit at your table, and you make sure all the cards are there, and then you break down all the chips into even stacks. And then the players start arriving at the table with their registration slips, and most places will require their ID as well. So you check them in, and then when the tournament starts, you're pitching cards. In the event you weren't assigned a table to start a tournament, then you might be a push dealer, in which case you go push out another dealer. That dealer will then go to the next table. You rotate every half hour through this rotation of tables. Now, over the course of the day, you'll get several breaks usually. Not always. If you're understaffed, you may only get 1 or 2 breaks, but usually you're going to get a handful of breaks. This is a good opportunity to go outside and get a breath of fresh air, stretch a little bit, or go to the EDR and have a snack. Now, remember how I told you there's a lot of flexibility and that you can choose the events you want to work? Well, check this out. There's also this thing called the EO list. The EO list is quite simply an early out list. You sign a list if you want to go home first. And then they go in order, and they take people out as the tournaments shrink. So if you're feeling burnt out from working 20 hours over the course of the weekend and you want to go home early, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, maybe you just want to go to the beach. You sign that EO list, and in all likelihood, you'll get out early. So how do your paychecks work? So here's how your paycheck is structured. You get your base wage of $10 per hour. That's pretty standard in the industry. And then on top of that, you get your toques, okay? Your toques will usually come at the very, very end. So what might happen over the course of a 2-week event, for instance, is you'll get paid your hourly wage for a few days for the first paycheck, and then the second paycheck, you'll get the rest of your hourly wages plus your toques. So the toques are a combination of 2 things. The toques are the fees that they charge each player per entry, plus any tips that players tip out at the end of the night. So the toques are then combined into one big pool, and then they're divided into the total number of downs. That's the total number of half hours that all the dealers dealt accumulatively. That creates a toque rate. The toque rate might be anywhere from $15 to $30 per down, okay? And then those are distributed amongst us, depending on how many downs we got. So if I got 150 downs during that event, I get 150 times 30 if the down rate's really good. And so those are my toques. So the toques obviously is where you make your really big money. Now you might be thinking, well, what about the free campsite? You have to consider that, don't you? Sure, let's do the math. Look, I worked Amazon before, and I had a great time, because I got to meet a lot of other campers, and I got to experience the whole thing. I got to spend 3 months and with these other campers working this gig, and I made great friends. I mean, I still have these friends a decade later. So yeah, I got a free campsite and I made $600 a week. It's okay. You spend $400 on lodging, let's say. I spend way less than that with my camping memberships, but let's just say high end, you pay about $400 for 2 weeks camping, but you make $3,500. So your net profit is like over $3,000 for 2 weeks. So to me, the math is pretty easy. If you're in it to make a little bit of money, let's say you're not retired or you're semi-retired and you do need to make a decent wage, I think this is the way to go. Pay for your campsite, make great money.